I began to see myself through the lens of Black and a woman. If I see someone like coming up with their dog, for example, and the dog's barking at me, I could interpret that as a racist.
Folks, I have said this 1,000 times and I will say it 1,000 more times if I have to. Wokeness, the woke ideology, the far left progressive liberal mindset is a cult. It is a cult. This is dogma. This is their doctrine. And you are conditioned or at least recruited into the woke cult vis-a-vis the education system. And I put up air quotes just in case you're listening and not watching. The so-called education system, which I like to call the indoctrination system, or these indoctrination camps that are schools and universities. Now, unfortunately, it's not just subject to the fringe far left colleges, the Santa Cruzes of the world and the San Franciscos of the world. No. This has found its way into almost all universities and colleges, and it is destroying young minds. It is turning these brilliant, or I guess potentially brilliant minds, into complete brain rot. The literal definition of such. It is turning these young people, and old people alike, I guess you would say, because there's a whole lot of old fools, into severe mental illness. I now call it the pipeline to mental illness. That's what it is to become woke. Now, people like to argue with me with this, definition of woke. I'm not talking about awake. There's a difference between being awake, which is, self-actualization and being able to see the world for what it truly is, i.e. being red-pilled. And I don't mean that red pill. I'm not talking about Andrew Tate right now. I'm talking about just being able to see reality for what it is, as opposed to being a damn bot or an NPC, as the kids like to say. Damn, I'm getting old. I just said as the kids like that. Okay. Anyway, this is easily one of the best breakdowns as far as what's really going down. And I only watched half the video because I wanted to do just a natural reaction or response to the rest of it in real time with y'all. But I saw enough to let me know that this is something I would want to share with the entire world. If I am featuring a video on here, unless it's something that somebody sent me and I haven't watched any of it, some of that nature, it's likely something that I would recommend to my own grandmama. So that being said, let's get into this. This is John Stossel, dude who I wish I had exposure to all throughout my educational, or I guess miseducational experience, my indoctrination experience. And, I probably would have never even thought about becoming a woke idiot. So let's get into it, and I'll give my 2 cents as we move along. Get yourself some water and enjoy the show.
And then make them feel guilty. Over the past 10 years, many colleges went mad. They charge students big bucks and then make them feel guilty. This is what happened to Lucy Cross Williams at Stanford.
I was anxious. I felt guilty constantly. I couldn't stop thinking about the whole white privilege thing.
Kim Katiti attended the Art Institutes of California.
I feel like I lost my life for like 6 years.
This new documentary, The Coddling of the American Mind, argues that today more young people are anxious and depressed because adults at their schools brainwash them.
I was full of self-confidence when I was 18, but while I was in college, that disintegrated.
Kimmy was taught she was a victim.
I was introduced to ideas such as microaggressions.
Have you heard or even said any of these common microaggressions?
I've been saying this for a while now, even before I started putting out this form of content, before I had the cojones to put out this type of content. I've been saying that we are raising a weak generation, or we are creating a weak generation. And I don't just necessarily mean, the millennials or the zennials or the alphas. I'm talking about just the overall society. We are fostering offense. Instead of creating resilience, instead of creating grit within our population, we are fostering greater levels of offense, which is sensitivity. People get their feelings hurt so easy, and you can't say things because that's triggering, and I need my little safe space. That is detrimental to a society. You are weak. You are feeble. You are unable to do for self. And where do you find yourself? Hiding in a little corner somewhere. Not living the fullest potential of your life. Simple as that. So, yeah, again, all of this is gems. I'm going to do my best not to stop every 36 seconds, but let's let this ride out, and I'm going to do my best. That's all I can promise.
microaggressions. Wow, you're so articulate. Can I touch your hair?
I began to see myself through the lens of Black and a woman. If I see someone like coming up with their dog, for example, and the dog's barking at me, I could interpret that as a racist microaggression on the part of both the dog and the dog walker. And I was like, the world's a lot darker than I thought it was. In order to kind of compete and get the best grades, I sort of showed how much of a victim I was in order to impress my professors.
She thought that was wrong, but she didn't push back.
I thought, I'm paying a lot, so they're definitely teaching me like the golden rules for life.
Those rules included censoring speech by conservatives like Ben Shapiro. Kimmy joined the mob trying to get Shapiro's posts blocked on Twitter. She kept sending complaints.
I did want to say this about just a little section that they jumped over, and maybe they'll get into detail. But as far as the worldview, like everything looks a lot darker. I've said this before, and I will continue to reiterate until it really starts to register for some folks. We're all in an echo chamber, okay? We will always be in echo chambers. The world is just now we have it digitized, and you can say that it is making greater and greater silos. But even if you're in a tribe or just a specific subsect of individuals, who have like minds or whatever, you're in an echo chamber. So we're all in one. The difference is, what are you being fed through that echo chamber? What is the messaging? Is it uplifting? Is it something that's actually going to get you to, get off your behind and move and do something and know that you have the ability to? Is it going to promote personal agency and personal responsibility, i.e. personal power? Or is it going to lead you to believe that you can do nothing, you can fix nothing, the world is after you, you're a victim, and you're basically royally cooked? That's the difference. And unfortunately, that's what this woke ideology, the dogma itself, is inherently based in oppressed and oppressor. Right? You always need an oppressor. It's a power game. It's a fixation on that. That's why I call it neo-Marxism, because it is exactly that. The Marxist believes in this world broken up between oppressed and oppressor. And so they thrive off of that. And when you have that mentality and you make yourself the oppressed, you're done. You're cooked, period. You find yourself in a place where you believe that you can't fix anything, you can't change anything, and so therefore you must tear apart the systems around you instead of going within yourself and fixing the system, i.e. the belief system that must be changed in order to change your world. So let's get back in.
Complaints to Twitter censors.
I would sit down all the way through the night. I'll try again. I'll try again.
At Stanford, Lucy was taught that Shapiro's ideas put Black, brown, trans, queer, Muslim students at risk.
My first thought was like, this is extreme, this is ridiculous. And then there was the, well, you're privileged, you're white.
She was taught that a good person...
I didn't read too many books by white authors or listen to the wrong kind of music. I was really torn on rap because I didn't know if that was appropriation or appreciation.
To be accepted, she changed the way she spoke.
When I started to use the vocabulary of like marginalized, intersectional, hegemonic, blah, 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 people just kind of smiled a little bit more. And I started feeling like I was part of an in-group.
But a few years later...
I lied. I can't not stop. This is too good. This is really gold mine. I stopped like maybe 30 seconds before this, and then I was like, oh, I got to do a review. So, this is so good. There's so much here. Okay. Language. Language is a gateway to the mind, right? Language is a way in which we bond and feel even significance. It's like slang, etc. And it's interesting because the woke ideologues, they really have their own language that most sane people would not be able to comprehend. And it is a form of signaling to one another like we are the same. And so it's so interesting to hear her say that. It's like, how do I get your approval? I signal to you that I'm one of you. It's like the external aspects, right? My girl did some research because, she's from Europe, and not the Europe we're seeing right now, which is turning into a damn cesspool in and of itself. But, she's from a place where these things simply don't make sense. People aren't fixated on race and all these weird concepts. But she was like wondering why these women paint their hair different colors and things what is that about? All of them seem to have like different hair colors and these piercings, etc. And it turns out that it is, basically behavioral psychology, or I guess you could say evolutionary psychology, says that when a prey is looking to ward off predator, it will, exhibit some sense of something that looks threatening in order to ward that predator away from it. So there's that, which is like, Screech, get away from me. And then there's also the signaling aspect, right? There's a duality. There's a signaling aspect to say, I am one of you, to attract your own kind. It's like wearing a white dude's for Kamala hat. It's like, I am white liberal male feminist. Hear me roar. You know what I mean? Give me the draws. That's really what he's doing, to be honest. He's really just playing his own part of the game, his own manipulation tactic. That's his pickup, basically, putting on that damn white dudes for Kamala and voting for an absolute atrocity. But yeah, it's incredible. Just to hear people who are in this madness, and expressing it in this way. It's a cult. It's a cult. Well, I didn't know if I could listen to that music or not because, I don't know if Beelzebub is going to come and get me. I don't know if the spaghetti monster go. You're living in constant paranoia of what do I do? And if you deviate a little bit, you're excommunicated from the religion. There you are. You're banished. You're cooked.
Later, she concluded,
These set of thought processes was really unhealthy and was making me miserable.
Administrators teach students that they're fragile and in constant danger and can be permanently harmed by words. This is not a kind or compassionate thing to teach people.
Greg Lukianoff co-wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. Years ago, he suffered from suicidal depression. Therapy helped him, but now...
I'm looking on campus and I'm like, wow, it's kind of like administrators are telling students to catastrophize, to do all these things that I was taught not to do.
This is amplified by required courses that divide students into oppressed or oppressor.
Colleges provide websites and phone numbers so students can report people who offend them.
And lots of people offend them.
I was today years old when I realized that there was a hotline that you can call in order to report people. This is Gestapo. This is Little Mustache Man. Okay. There's a Marxist quote, and I actually shared with my girl today. Hold up. Let me pull this joint up. It's too good. Wow, folks. Just when I'm like, man, how much more of a battery can I have in my bag about this stuff? I get one of these situations. Where did I put that damn picture? Okay, I know I sent it to her. Let me open that up real quick. Bear with me. Okay. Accuse your enemy of what you are doing as you are doing it to create confusion. This is Karl Marx. He says, accuse your enemy. Now, if you look at the Democratic Party, they always do that. They always project exactly what they're doing. Censorship, So when the fascist thing came up, I was like, wait a minute. Now, I'm no historian, but I know enough to know that a fascist is one who looks to censor, the one who looks to essentially control the population, the one who says if you deviate from our thought process, then you are ostracized or you are unalived in some form. We will retaliate. That is everything that the far left has been doing. You deviate just a little bit. And I've seen countless messages within all of my social media platforms where people share their stories with me about what the hell is going on for real in their lives and how they have been cut off, their daughters, their mamas, aunties, uncles, whatever, who have gone off on them. Some of them threatening violence towards their loved ones because they do not subscribe to this mental illness. And so, again, Karl Marx, accuse your enemy of what you are doing because they believe in any means necessary. By any means necessary, we're going to get our way. By any means necessary. So they will report you. Remember what they used to do back in old school Germany? You have to report your neighbor. They're harboring. That's what this is. Y'all, man, look, we can laugh at all the, woke cringe and things of that nature, but this is dead ass serious. Like, that's why I go off about this. My life purpose is to do all I can in this lifetime to eradicate the disease, the cancer that is the woke mind virus. Call it what it is. Yeah.
In 2012, there was none of this.
Coddling co-author Jonathan Haidt.
And by 2014, 2015, there was a lot of it.
What about our protection right now?
At this college, they
Basically took the president of the university hostage. They wouldn't even let him go to the bathroom. It wasn't about learning. It wasn't about exposure to ideas. It was about this battle between good and evil.
This new censorship was supposed to help minorities, but they too were often punished. Saeed Malami spoke at a protest.
I go up there, feeling all cool with myself. It was like, blackness is not a skin color, it's an attitude to life. If you're white, you can be black. If you're black, you can be purple, whatever it is. I'm like, everyone can be black. And what happened after that, a lot of people I thought I was tight with just stopped talking to me.
So instead of saying, I'm no victim, he shut up.
What I thought to be true, I would keep in my head and then say something else.
Doing that makes other students dumber.
Other people challenging us make us smart. Cancel culture is like a way of shooting yourself in the brain.
For Kimmy, a turning point was when she went to a skate park in a conservative neighborhood.
Are they going to hate that a black woman's in their territory? Will they literally pick up a skateboard and
I wish every single one of these lunatics would go into a conservative, like, small town. I moved into a small town, California, Northern California. Just gonna leave it at that, which is a rarity, mind you, here. And it's like every conception that I had of what it was to be in a small town was debunked immediately. Some of the nicest people I've met in the entirety of my life live in these sorts of areas, right? And I got family in Texas, etc. But like being here and living here and being a resident in small town, the nicest freaking people that you meet. And that, like, I was already, I had already been, I guess, red-pilled per se. I already kind of stepped out of the conservative closet, at least in a private setting. But if they just had the exposure like her, and she's an open-minded, so she was willing, because you have to be willing. If you're being fed by this damn demonic spirit, then it's going to be difficult. You got a lot to process and a lot to go through. You got to heal that damn trauma. But if you're like in a place where you're ready and you're exposed to something else, like Amala, shout out to Amala out there. Love your content. And you go from, being kind of radicalized, but you're like, there's something a little off here. And uncertainty, maybe keeping things to yourself. All of a sudden you're exposed to the opposite. It will switch you like that. There are members of, the Cool Kids Club, the Ks, and the other Ks who have flipped into being, from white supremacy into loving everybody, basically, because they saw their grandchild who was, half black or whatever it was. Like one situation or one interaction, somebody saves your life. Lil Wayne, as a little kid, he ended up blasting himself as, he found a gat in the house, blasted himself, and it was a white cop who helped him. To this day, he's cool with and, has nothing but love for. And that painted his image of, man, the kindness of people, no matter what skin color. Just one exposure could change everything for you.
attack me?
The park was in Orange County, California.
I was afraid of Orange County to begin with, just because it was notoriously conservative. So just going into Orange County was kind of scary for me.
But at the park, Kimmy found the county was not evil as she'd feared.
This was a really great place. That was when I knew there was a way that I was looking at the world that wasn't right. I was the one inflicting pain on myself, and it was robbing me of happiness.
It's really important to have great sympathy for younger people today because they're just doing what older people are telling them. Like this idea that they're always in constant danger, that words will permanently harm them, and that they're much more fragile than they actually are.
When I was a social justice advocate, I was tired, miserable, pessimistic.
Now that I'm out of that and I'm thinking for myself, I'm much happier.
I wasn't really sure what the alternative was until a friend sent me a link
To this YouTube channel where black scholars said things she'd never heard.
The whole business of black men being at a unique risk of being killed by white cops is vastly distorted.
I was astonished to find that there were black thinkers writing about race and sharing ideas that I never heard on campus. This whole new world of ideas has opened up to me, and
that, personally, I just got chills in my head. I don't usually, my chills happen in my head for some reason. Does anybody else have that where you get just head chills, that type? Maybe it's because I'm so heady. But that is extremely encouraging for myself to say, I could be that person for somebody who is looking for, like, you're creep. Like, when I first started looking at conservative content, I felt like I was doing something dirty. You know what I'm saying? Ben Shapiro, oh, don't do it. Candace, oh. It was an experience, y'all. Yeah, it felt like I was like entering some type of, like Fight Club, an underground sort of society that I wasn't supposed to be engaging with. And if I can be that for somebody where, the alternative voice, and, because again, this is my world. I live in this world now, and I'm quite reclusive, etc. So it's like, I would think to myself, oh, surely, everybody's kind of moving in this way or the very opposite. But it's like, no, there's people who, just like this young lady right here, all it takes is hearing a black man or black woman or, somebody who they would have viewed as kind of, the only voice she could have heard at that time was a black, quote unquote, black voice. I don't even like using that, but it's like, quote unquote, as they would call it, a black voice. Because if a white person was saying it, crickets, exact same thing, right? Because you're programmed and conditioned to say these voices matter more. These voices are amplified because they're the oppressed, which is very strange dynamic, but that is their ideology. So she could only hear it from that person, a black man or a black woman, right? Or maybe part of the alphabet community or something like that, and it only cut through then. And so I do carry that responsibility to say, bro, you can say things as a black man that others may not be able to. It's like, oh yeah, black people can be racist. That's so controversial, White people have been canceled. They've been damn near fired for saying anything in the likeness of that. But yet I can get away with it because I'm a so-called elevated voice, of course, until I'm not, because I'm a sellout and, I'm Uncle Tom and the rest. But yeah, again, that was very encouraging for me. So I'm going to wrap this out, but I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Till the next time, sayonara.
It was so exciting to feel like I was thinking for myself again.
Coddling is a good introduction to how some of today's schools harm students. This video was just a taste. There's more in the full documentary, and you can find that at thecoddlingmovie.com. Here at Stossel TV, we'll
I used to be afraid of the dark, a place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up. You know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises. You get to praising.